Money, power, and love. Three forces that can shape empires, spark headlines, and occasionally blow up boardrooms. Welcome to the world of the ultra-wealthy, where an affair isn't just a scandal. It can shift billions, redraw corporate control, and even rewrite philanthropy. From Silicon Valley to Wall Street, from Hollywood to global royalty, these stories aren't about tabloids. They're about stakes that move markets, foundations, and dynasties. In this series, we'll explore the richest, most dramatic, and most consequential relationships and divorces in the world. Stories where love, money, and power collide in ways most of us can only imagine. We'll look at jaw-dropping settlements, eye-popping assets, and the very public or very private strategies these figures use to protect their fortunes, reputations, and futures. And just when you think you've seen it all, the next story will completely redefine what affair means when you're playing at this level. Jeff Bezos and Mackenzie Scott. January 2019 started like any other day in Silicon Valley, but behind closed doors, one of the richest marriages in history was unraveling in public view. Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, suddenly found himself in the eye of a media storm when tabloids reported his relationship with Lauren Sanchez. Most people would try to hide it, not Bezos. On February 7th, he went public, posting an essay titled "No Thank You, Mr. Pecker." In it, he accused American Media Incorporated, the company behind the National Enquirer, of attempting to blackmail him. Intimate photos, threats, and demands, a classic extortion scenario. But Bezos didn't just call them out, he published the emails, the proof, the receipts, all for the world to see. Overnight, the narrative flipped. The story wasn't just gossip anymore, it was a public power move, a billionaire setting the terms of his own scandal. 2 months later, the headlines shifted again, this time to a divorce settlement that would redefine high-stakes wealth transfers. Mackenzie Scott, then Mackenzie Bezos, announced she would retain roughly 25% of the couple's Amazon shares. At the time, that was around 4% of the company, valued at about $35 to $36 billion, instantly catapulting her into the ranks of the world's richest women. She also transferred her interests in the Washington Post and Blue Origin to Jeff, solidifying his voting control over Amazon. But the real story wasn't just numbers, it was strategy, optics, and power. Bezos retained control, Mackenzie gained independence, and both walked away with opportunities few could imagine. She went on to become a philanthropic juggernaut, giving away tens of billions across thousands of organizations with zero overhead, quietly reshaping the world of large-scale giving. Meanwhile, Bezos continued to expand his empire, add mega yachts, and make headlines, proving that life and wealth didn't pause for heartbreak. In the world of the ultra-rich, a divorce isn't a private affair. It's a boardroom maneuver, a public narrative, and a philanthropic game-changer all at once. And yet, if you thought Bezos and Scott were the ultimate high-stakes story, wait until you see how Bill and Melinda Gates turned their split into a governance experiment that shook the world of charity. Bill and Melinda Gates. When Bill and Melinda Gates announced their divorce in May 2021, the world didn't just see a separation, it saw the potential ripple across one of the largest philanthropic empires on the planet, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Suddenly, questions weren't about headlines or rumors. They were about global health, billions in aid, and governance continuity. Within weeks, the foundation unveiled a 2-year trial plan. Independent trustees would be added to the board, and if the co-chairs couldn't work together, Melinda could step down and receive resources to direct her own charitable initiatives. Every move was public, deliberate, and designed to reassure partners, grantees, and governments that the foundation's massive operations, funding vaccines, development programs, and educational initiatives would continue uninterrupted. By early 2022, the governance changes were formalized. New trustees joined, CEO Mark Sussman came on board, and the foundation began operating with institutional ballast, ensuring its mission wasn't tied solely to the personal relationship of its founders. Fast forward to May 2024, Melinda stepped down as co-chair, receiving $12.5 billion to pursue independent philanthropic projects separate from the foundation. The move wasn't just about money, it was about power, influence, and signaling stability. Governments, NGOs, and grantees watched closely. Here was a high-profile split executed with surgical precision, preserving impact while giving Melinda freedom to innovate on her own terms. Unlike other divorces where wealth and power collide chaotically, this one became a playbook for modern philanthropy: de-risk, professionalize, and ensure continuity, even amid personal upheaval. Do you think the Gates divorce is the peak of a billion-dollar drama? Wait until we explore how Elon Musk's personal life intertwined with corporate empires, paternity revelations, and headline-grabbing affairs, showing that in tech, love, scandal, and governance collide in ways the world can't look away from. Elon Musk, relationships, paternity, and headlines. Elon Musk is no stranger to headlines, but sometimes his personal life makes corporate boards, markets, and media outlets all pause at once. In 2022, the world learned Musk fathered twins with Neuralink executive Siobhan Zealis, a revelation filed in court to formalize naming rights. Just days later, another storm hit. Allegations surfaced of a brief affair with Nicole Shanahan, then recently separated from Sergey Brin's wife. Musk's response? A swift, blunt denial on social media, calling the story total BS. But these were more than tabloid fodder. When the founder of Tesla, SpaceX, and other system-critical companies is involved, personal headlines instantly become corporate headlines. Investors, employees, and partners watch for signs that these personal stories might affect governance, leadership, or internal operations. Every denial, every filing, every paternity claim had implications for how the world viewed Musk, not just as a mogul, but as a decision-maker controlling multi-billion-dollar tech empires. What stands out is the playbook in action. Musk seized the narrative, framed the story on his own terms, and kept the public and markets focused on facts rather than speculation. The twins with Zealis, court filings, verifiable documents, and public acknowledgement. The alleged affair, immediate and categorical denial. Here's the kicker. While some billionaire dramas fade, Musk's personal headlines interweave with company headlines, creating a persistent, almost cinematic tension that editors, newsrooms, and social media can't ignore. And while we're still unpacking the full scope of Musk's influence in these high-stakes personal corporate collisions, the next story takes this drama to a global empire level where personal life, marriages, and divorce shape corporate control and legacy like nothing else. Enter Rupert Murdoch and his serial marriages. But before we dive into Murdoch's world, if you're fascinated by the intersection of love, scandal, and billions, don't just scroll past. Smash that like button now so you don't miss what happens when personal affairs collide with corporate empires next. Rupert Murdoch, serial marriages and succession context. If anyone shows how personal milestones can ripple through global empires, it's Rupert Murdoch. Between 2013 and 2024, Murdoch's personal life was a headline machine: divorces, engagements, and marriages. But the story beneath the tabloids is all about control, succession, and institutional stability. In 2013, Murdoch finalized his divorce from Wendy Deng after 14 years, reportedly on amicable terms. Headlines loved the glamour and drama, but the real chessboard was corporate. Murdoch's vast holdings in News Corp and Fox Corp had to remain insulated from the media spectacle. Every move, every filing, every headline risked sparking market speculation. Then came 2016, a new marriage to Jerry Hall, which lasted until 2022. By this time, Murdoch was preparing his empire for succession. And the timing wasn't accidental. In late 2023, he announced he would step back as chair of both Fox Corp and News Corp, elevating his son Lachlan Murdoch into operational leadership while retaining influence as chairman emeritus. While tabloids focused on weddings, breakups, and engagements, including a brief engagement to Anne Leslie Smith that ended within weeks, the corporate narrative was crystal clear. Murdoch's family trust and dual-class share structures ensured continuity and concentrated control. Personal upheavals made great headlines, but the empire marched on without disruption. Even his 2024 marriage to Elena Zhukova fit seamlessly into this structure, leaving voting power intact and reinforcing the message to investors and regulators. Succession is planned, control is preserved, and personal life is compartmentalized from corporate stability. The Murdoch saga illustrates a fascinating pattern at the ultra-rich intersection of personal and professional life. Media frenzy, boardroom optics, and corporate governance are all intertwined, and the way one manages personal transitions can define perception of control and stability for decades. Although Murdoch's story is one of careful orchestration and legacy management, the next case takes us into a realm where personal safety, security, and legal engineering dominate the financial headlines. Enter Princess Haya and Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, whose separation rewrote the rules of what divorce costs at the apex of wealth. Princess Haya, security first settlements. When it comes to ultra-wealthy separations, not every headline is about money alone. Sometimes protection and safety outweigh luxury, and no story illustrates this better than Princess Haya's divorce from Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum. In December 2021, the UK High Court issued a record-setting family financial award, roughly £554 million, designed not just to fund lifestyle, but to secure the long-term protection of Princess Haya and her two children. An immediate capital payment payment of £251.5 million covered security installations, holidays, and arrears, while an index-linked annual maintenance ensured ongoing protection. A further bank guarantee up to £290 million safeguarded future obligations. The court's decision was grounded in a very real threat. Prior reports revealed Sheikh Mohammed had orchestrated Pegasus spyware hacks and earlier abductions of Haya's daughters. This wasn't about public perception or luxury spending. It was a risk engineering exercise at a royal scale. Every pound in the award was measured against potential harm, making security the headline driver rather than real estate, jets, or yachts. From a practical perspective, the ruling redefined what divorce settlements look like at the extreme high end. Protection budgets exceeded even the most lavish lifestyle allocations, and the structure resembled a corporate risk plan more than a conventional spousal support scheme. Security architects, financial planners, and legal teams were mobilized to ensure the funds would guarantee safe living arrangements, schooling, and travel for decades, long after the formal proceedings concluded. The Princess Haya case reframes the idea of wealth separation. At the pinnacle of power, physical safety, operational continuity, and risk mitigation become just as important as financial settlement. Just when you feel the story of risk, strategy, and wealth in personal life has peaked, the next tale takes us into the opaque, high-stakes world of Roman Abramovich, where art, property, and cross-border maneuvers dominate the narrative. Roman Abramovich, high-value divorces and asset mobility. When it comes to high-stakes wealth and ultra-private settlements, Roman Abramovich offers a textbook case of how an oligarch navigates personal upheaval without letting it ripple through business or reputation. In 2007, Abramovich divorced his second wife, Irina Abramovich, in a quietly orchestrated settlement. Official figures were never disclosed, though media speculation pegged the payout at around $300 million. And despite the enormous sum, a deliberate point was made. His corporate holdings, including Chelsea FC, were untouched. Markets and stakeholders were reassured. Divorce did not equal instability. Fast forward to 2017 to 2018, and Abramovich's separation from Dasha Zhukova added another layer of complexity. While the split was announced as amicable, filings showed substantial property transfers, including a portfolio of Upper East Side Manhattan homes totaling approximately $91 to $92 million. This was more than a divorce. It was a carefully choreographed asset mobility exercise, signaling both to investors and peers that high-value assets could be reallocated swiftly and discreetly without litigation or public spectacle. What stands out in Abramovich's approach is how optics outweigh ledgers. Rumors of payouts, strategic deed transfers, and art trust rearrangements all created a narrative of wealth preservation and operational continuity. Even unverified numbers, like the 2007 $300 million rumor, became shorthand for the scale of potential exposure, while corporate and cultural operations continued without disruption. The 2018 transfers also revealed jurisdictional arbitrage in action. By shifting real estate and art assets across US, UK, and Russian legal frameworks, Abramovich maintained flexibility and privacy, a maneuver only possible at this level of wealth and international reach. These moves underscored the reality that elite divorces are as much about controlling narrative and protecting empire as they are about personal separation. But if you think this is the pinnacle of intrigue, wait until we dive into Steve Wynn's empire-level scandal, where personal conduct not only reshaped wealth, but triggered regulatory fines, corporate governance shakeups, and long-term investor consequences. Steve Wynn, misconduct allegations, and corporate penalties. In the world of high-stakes hospitality, few names command as much recognition as Steve Wynn. But in 2018, the billionaire casino magnate found himself under a media microscope that threatened to cascade into corporate liability. It all started in early 2018, when investigative reporting in the Wall Street Journal revealed allegations of sexual misconduct spanning years. Wynn quickly resigned as CEO and chairman of Wynn Resorts, and stepped down as RNC finance chair. The fallout was immediate. Shares dipped nearly 20%, and board-level scrutiny intensified. Regulatory consequences soon followed. Nevada's Gaming Commission imposed a record $20 million fine on Wynn Resorts for failing to adequately investigate or escalate complaints tied to the allegations. Crucially, the company retained its operating licenses, showing regulators prioritized remediation over outright operational shutdown. Meanwhile, the Massachusetts Gaming Commission followed with its own review tied to Wynn Resorts' Encore Boston Harbor project. a $35 million corporate fine landed alongside $500,000 penalties for CEO Matthew Maddox, and structural conditions were imposed: an independent monitor, mandatory governance training, and a 15-year separation of the chairman and CEO roles. These measures underscored how personal conduct at the top can ripple through corporate operations, demanding systemic corrections. Civil settlements also entered the picture. Shareholder derivative suits alleging board negligence were resolved with a $41 million settlement, part of which came from Wynn personally. And in 2023, salon workers filed a separate civil case, highlighting ongoing exposure tied to company culture. Even years later, the long shadow of executive misconduct continued to reverberate. Why does this matter beyond tabloid fodder? In Wynn's case, personal conduct directly triggered enterprise-level penalties. Boards were forced to rethink governance, regulatory bodies asserted compliance as a licensing imperative, and investors recalibrated risk exposure. Wynn's saga illustrates a stark principle. At the intersection of personal behavior and corporate responsibility, no empire is immune from oversight. Divorces, affairs, and allegations at this scale are more than personal drama. They influence voting control in giant corporations, restructure foundations that span continents, trigger regulatory fines, and even create decades-long security obligations. Each story, from Bezos to Wynn, shows how wealth, influence, and reputation are interwoven, where personal decisions ripple outward into markets, media, and institutions. Even though some navigate the fallout with strategic discretion, others turn headlines into theater, reshaping not only their personal fortunes, but the perception of power and influence across industries. But the story doesn't end here. Behind every tabloid splash and court filing lies another layer of hidden strategies, boardroom maneuvers, and high-stakes settlements. And in our next video, we're diving into the world of ultra-private billionaires' asset maneuvers, the estates, yachts, and investments they use to stay untouchable, even in the face of public scrutiny.